Evening, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Naperville Park District Board of Commissioners, September 8th, 2011, is 7 p.m. All please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. Jackie, would you call the roll, please?
President Riley?
Here.
Vice President Young?
Here.
Commissioner Egan?
Present.
Commissioner Heidi?
Here.
Commissioner Janner?
Here.
Commissioner Ori?
Here.
Commissioner Todd?
Here.
Next item on the agenda is introduction and recognitions. We don't have any awards or
Nothing this
recognitions this evening. And do we have anyone signed up from the public to speak? No. Okay, then we'll get right into updates and reports. First is the Riverwalk Commission update from Commissioner Heidi.
Thank you, President Riley. Our next meeting is next week, so I don't have a report per se. I did want to make everyone aware that we've got a community bricklaying event a week from today. The rallying point will be Jefferson Plaza. And Kevin, what time was that? Do you recall? 9 a.m. Thank you.
The next three items are the foundation updates. First, the Riverwalk Foundation. The next meeting of the Riverwalk Foundation is not scheduled until January 2012. As far as the Carillon Foundation, the next meeting of the Carillon Foundation be held October 16th at 7:30 a.m. in the Rubin Center. And then on the Parks Foundation, there's nothing new to report on the Parks Foundation. They last met on July 21st, and their next meeting has not yet been scheduled. Next, we have the Finance Committee update. Commissioner Todd.
Okay, we met on August 17th, and the committee reviewed the financial information on the district's recreation programs, the golf programs, and the beach. And our financial advisor was at our last meeting also to present several refunding options for the District Series 2003A bonds. And we had talked about this at our last workshop. So with the current low interest rate environment, the district can refinance these bonds at a much lower interest rate to achieve some savings. And then those bond ordinances are on our tonight's agenda.
Thank you. Next, we have the Parks and Recreation Committee update. Vice President Young.
The Parks and Recreation Committee met August 15th. The committee considered a request to provide a 4-post shelter and picnic tables at the South Point Park. There are no mature trees at South Point Park, and the committee felt that providing a shelter and picnic tables would be appropriate. The cost is relatively low and can be included in the capital plan without replacing another project, and so the committee is in favor of providing that amendment. The committee, along with the golf committee, received an update on the cost to improve the electrical and sewer infrastructure for the range room at Springbrook, and then the full board discussed that same issue at our last workshop. The Parks and Recreation Committee also reviewed the movable goal policy that was passed during our last workshop. The committee reviewed proposed changes to the master plan on a concept level. The committee will review a Word document showing the actual changes to be made or proposed changes to be made in the next month or two, and we're tentatively targeting a full board review of changes to the master plan in mid-fall. The Recreation Department brought forward 2 requests from residents for new programs, including their evaluation forms used to analyze the appropriateness of adding these programs. One request was for pickleball, and the second was for platform tennis or paddleball. Both of these activities are similar to tennis in the sense that there is a net between opposing sides who use paddles or rackets to exchange a ball. Pickleball can be played on a sport court type surface, and platform tennis is played on an elevated court and can be played during the winter months. Platform tennis does require a capital outlay, however, to provide. The committee will continue to consider the associated costs related to offering these programs and may try to gauge resident interest in these forms of recreation through a survey. This remains an open item for the committee. Finally, athletic field cost recovery is an unfinished item for the Parks and Recreation Committee. Staff has reviewed the methodologies of neighboring park districts and reports that a pay-by-hour methodology is the most common. Staff has not presented a recommendation yet for the committee to consider, and this remains an open item on our agenda as well. We will meet again September 19th.
Thank you. Next, we have the Golf Committee update. Commissioner Egan.
Thank you. We are excited to report that Naperville Golf Course got its Groupon in August and launched its first Groupon offer. The offer was met with resounding success. 830 offers were purchased. Purchases were made from 162 different zip codes. 143 zip codes were from Illinois. Purchases were made from 19 different states, including California, D.C., Florida, and Minnesota. 260 offers have been redeemed to date, and purchasers have until the end of this year to redeem. We are remarketing to people who redeem the offers and sending them a brief survey. We have received 72 responses to the survey, or about 34%, which has proved to be another great way to generate data on our golfers and solicit their opinions about their experience. Special events. Monday, Springbrook is honored to host the Mayor's annual charity golf outing. Spaces are still available, and you can register at www.mayorsgolfouting.org. Tickets are $175 and include golf cart, lunch, and dinner. If you do not want to golf, you can purchase tickets for dinner only and enjoy cuisine on the green. Tickets are $50 for dinner only. Party rooms for the holiday season are available at both Springbrook and Naperville Golf Club houses, December through February. Ann Emond is excited to discuss the details of your event and how Springbrook or Naperville is the perfect place to hold your event. Contact Ann at 630-848-3608 for reservations and details. Our website still is faring fairly well. Naperville had 6,874 hits, up about 19% from the prior year. Springbrook, 6,940 hits, up about 13% from the prior year. Finally, July golf financials are in the Treasurer's Report that will be approved this evening. August financials for golf will be presented at the next golf committee this September, and then to the board at the regular monthly meeting in October. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the President's report. I want to start by correcting the record on something that was reported to the local press following our last regular meeting. The headline of an article that was published on August 15th read in part that our golf courses were taking a beating. The article went on to report that both courses in total were down approximately $260,000. While it is true that the Park District's golf revenue as of July 31st was approximately $260,000 less than was budgeted, our golf operating expenses were also down. In fact, they were down over $247,000. So the golf department's net operating income went down approximately $13,000 for the year. No business likes a shortfall in net income, and I remind everyone in the audience that golf as an enterprise fund stands on its own with the Naperville Park District. It's not tax supported as it is in some other municipalities. But our golf leadership team is to be commended for managing expenses in a way to almost completely mitigate the impact of the weather-related revenue loss. Expenses and revenues are monitored daily, allowing the staff to make the necessary operations adjustments. And with the traditionally pleasant fall weather ahead, it is quite possible we can make up this modest shortfall and have another successful season at our two beautiful golf courses. By the way, I do have to mention that Springbrook Golf Course will be hosting the Mayor's Golf Outing this coming Monday, September 12th. In 2009, on another note, in 2009, our community interest survey, we were told by the residents pretty clearly to focus on maintaining what we have, that existing facilities and offerings were adequate. We've been following that guidance very closely. There is, however, a segment of our population that doesn't have the same level of access to facilities and programs that most of us enjoy, and that would be our special needs residents. The board recognizes this. We've begun quantifying the issue, and tonight we'll be addressing some standby funding to enable us to explore alternatives to correct this inequity. Apologizing to Commissioner Janner. Went right past the Strategic Plan Committee meeting update. So if you could please deliver that now.
Take no offense to that, President Riley. I'd be happy to deliver that report. The Strategic Planning Committee met on Tuesday, September 6th. This was the first meeting of the Strategic Planning Committee since March of the past year. So a major discussion item at this meeting was the charter for this committee and our desire to focus and hone in on an appropriate scope for this particular committee. Our intention is to raise this topic at an upcoming board workshop and recommend that the Strategic Planning Committee be a forum for review and discussion around both the strategic plan and the master plan. The committee would have the opportunity to engage the leadership team on a quarterly basis or more frequently if needed regarding pertinent items within both plans. Other key topics of discussion at our September 6th meeting were alternative non-tax revenue sources, the importance of engaging the public in the decision-making process, and particularly the positive impact that volunteers have had on the Naperville Park District over the past year. This past year, the Park District has benefited from over 4,000 volunteers and 77,000 volunteer hours. So I'd like to publicly applaud all of our volunteers and thank our staff for their role in coordinating that. Thank you.
And Commissioner Jarrett, just to show that I wasn't just overlooking your committee report, I'd like now to ask Commissioner Heidi if he could deliver the update on the legislative committee.
Thank you, President Riley, but mine was by design, wasn't it? While we haven't had a committee meeting this month, our next meeting is scheduled for the 13th of this month. We have met with our state representative, Darlene Sanger, to discuss several important issues. Most notable among them is the status of House Bill 3129, which deals with access to the adjudicated criminal records of minor employees. Please recall that we've had many fits and starts relative to this bill. Just when we thought it was a slam dunk and the necessary votes were in place for passage, it was quashed due to a procedural error. Representative Sanger assures us that it will pass in this fall's veto session. We also discussed the redistricting that has occurred in Naperville. Representative Sanger now has more geography in Naperville and Representative Connolly has less. We're very fortunate that both of our state reps are staunch advocates of the Park District, and this redistricting presents few, if any, issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, if I haven't missed any other committee reports, on to the Executive Director's update.
Thank you, President Riley. Just a couple of quick things here. On Sunday, September 11th, the Naperville Park District will participate in a weekend of service and remembrance. Part of that service and remembrance will actually take place right here at City Hall this coming Sunday, right behind City Hall at the Commander Dan Schanauer Memorial. At 12:30 p.m., the Millennium Carillon bells will toll. At 12:45, the Naperville Municipal Band will perform a presentation. Will then follow at 1 p.m. with a keynote address by U.S. Navy Rear Admiral Richard Porterfield, who served as Commander Schanauer's superior officer. We encourage everybody that can attend, please come out on that day and join us, because certainly it's a day in history that none of us will ever forget. For further information on this, as well as a couple other things that we'll be doing over the weekend, please go to our website at www.napervilleparks.org and click on Support the Park District tab for some further details. And then finally, we will have a ribbon cutting at Nike Park, and that is not the Nike Sports Complex, but the actual Nike Park on Tuesday, September 20th at 5 p.m. And Nike Park is located at 1567 Apache Drive. We'll also be hosting a few other ribbon cutting events this coming fall, which I'll be talking about in later board meetings. Thank you.
The next item that we have is the approval of the Treasurer's Report.
Move to approve the July 2011 Treasurers Report.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Jackie, would you call the roll, please?
Vice President Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Todd,
Yes.
Commissioner Egan,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidi,
Yes.
Commissioner Janner,
Yes.
Commissioner Ori,
Aye.
President Riley.
Yes. Next, we have the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Mr. President, I'd like to pull item L, please.
Item L will be taken off the consent agenda. Are there any other items to be removed from the consent agenda?
President Riley, I move to accept consent agenda items A through K and item N.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Jackie, call the roll, please.
Vice President Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Todd,
Yes.
Commissioner Egan,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidi,
Yes.
Commissioner Danner,
Yes.
Commissioner Ori,
Aye.
President Riley.
Yes.
President Riley, move to approve the consent agenda as accepted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next, we have unfinished business.
President Riley, I move to approve ordinance number 760, providing for the issue of...
We have to do well.
I won't forget
Okay.
it. Let's do number L. President Riley, I'd like to talk about number L. I move to approve the purchase of one Groundsmaster 5,910 production mower in the amount of $81,535.97 on the Illinois State bid contract to Reindeers, Inc.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Now discussion on the motion. Commissioner Regan?
Thank you, President Riley. The reason I pulled this is I'm not going to be able to support it. This piece of equipment cost $81,000, and looking at the repair history cost, we haven't seen anything significant. Looking at what I was quoted, I think it was $7,500 to $10,000 for any major repairs that we would maybe start to see over the next usage. That in itself would be a 7-year payback. I don't see the return on investment for the taxpayers, so I'll be voting no.
Any further discussion on this item at this point? Commissioner Todd?
I think one thing that folks need to understand is that our maintenance folks have several tools that, and I forget the names of them, but they have tools that they keep track of the number of hours of usage of our equipment, and we know that there's a certain number of hours that you can get out of any piece of equipment, and I think we utilize those tools very effectively in order to make the most in terms of our equipment. And you know, if some of our equipment, especially something like a mower like this, breaks down, then that affects everything that we do. That means that some of our fields don't get mowed, the quality of our fields that we you know, have available for our citizens is less. So, you know, I think it's wise for our maintenance folks and you know, Parks and Rec folks to be, one, monitoring the usage of all our equipment, and, you know, when it comes to the point where they think that it's more cost-effective for us to get a new one than to try to maintain and keep it, it's not just the cost of the maintenance, but it's what happens, you know, to the rest of our programs and the rest of our assets if we don't have one available. So I think that it's important for us to follow through on our maintenance plans and to continue to do the types of things that we have and prudently replace our equipment before, you know, we can't provide the services that we believe is important.
Thank you, Commissioner Todd. And thank you both for summarizing several of the points that came out when we discussed this in the August workshop. Is there any other discussion on this motion, Commissioner Rory?
I think we probably got laid out a program for equipment replacement along the way, and this, I suspect, falls in line with that. I'm wondering whether we have considered in that the lease versus buy option on any of the equipment. I don't know whether that is even been considered, and whether we may want to take a look at that in the future.
Any further discussion on the item? Jackie, would you call the roll, please?
Vice President Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Todd,
Yes.
Commissioner Egan,
No.
Commissioner Heidi,
Yes.
Commissioner Danner,
Yes.
Commissioner Ori,
Aye.
President Riley.
Yes.
You ready? Okay. President Riley, I move to approve ordinance number 760, providing for the issue of not to exceed $12,700,000 general obligation limited park bonds of the Naperville Park District, DuPage and Will Counties, Illinois, and for the levy of a direct annual tax to pay the principal and interest on said bonds.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Just a little commentary from here. This 12.7, 6.2 million of this is refunding of current bonds, so it's not new money. And the catalyst for doing this is very simply the historically very, very low interest rates that exist right now. So we see opportunity to save money for our taxpayers by refinancing this now, and the 6.5 in new money is for capital improvement projects, which we're working on at this point. So with that, let me open this up to discussion. Commissioner Regan?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to be a no vote tonight on this as well. I fully support the refunding. Interest rates are lower. It makes a lot of sense. What I don't support is the way we are doing the refunding. We have 4 options that were presented to us, and this allows, on the old money, if you will, the pro rata savings. So basically, we're going to take the savings evenly over the year. My preferred method is what was affectionately turned out to be called the collapse and consume, which basically forces us to pay our debt off much sooner. Under the pro rata savings, we're going to save $591,000. Under the collapse and consume method, which would basically eat up most of our debt service and realize we'd give up some flexibility. But that savings is just a few $1,000s short of $1.5 million to the taxpayers. If anything, the deferred savings, which was another option, which is basically chopping a year and a half off our loan, shortening the duration, taking those further out years at higher interest rates, because it follows the yield curve, would provide savings of $716,000. So with that said, I can't support the option as it's written.
Any other discussion on the motion? Commissioner Rory?
I've got some sympathy for what Commissioner Regan is saying about chopping down our debt, and I'm not a big fan of debt for debt's sake, so I would agree that's a good viewpoint to look at. But we've got a building sitting over there at Knock Park that's 45 years old that needs to be replaced, called the barn, and we got a central maintenance facility right alongside. So those are 2 of the big projects I think that we need to consider, and if we did reduce our debt on the front end along the way, we wouldn't have the capability of addressing some of those needs as I see this being laid out. So I'm going to vote in favor of this.
Yeah, thank you, President Riley. And just one other piece to consider that I shared, and I think this advice was relevant to this discussion. In the past, Springfield has passed legislation that deals with towers to take loans in the future. And in the course of the discussion on the collapse and consume, which received a lot of consideration for the very reasons that Commissioner Egan has said this evening, one factor that was put in there is not only the volatility of market rates, what will the rates look like in 4 years when we could go back to the market for debt for capital projects, but also the volatility of Springfield. For example, in the mid-90s, Springfield passed a law that said the only debt park districts could take was a percentage of the debt they had on their books at the time, and it resulted in what we affectionately called the group of 16 park districts who had no debt on their books on that particular year at the particular date picked by Springfield out of the air, could never go get debt for any project ever. It took 7 years later to pass legislation to cure that for the group of 16 so that they could go forward and issue any debt to help them do any kinds of projects in the midst of the growth they were experiencing. Well, every year there are bills pending under the tax cap to reform it, quotes around reform, to change what can happen. And the declining equalized assessed values of many of the collar counties has driven a larger number of bills than normal.
Commissioner Heidi.
President Riley, I think it's relevant to mention that we discussed this issue at length at our last special meeting. Our Director of Finance was there, our financial advisor was there, and it was decided collectively that if we're to keep with our capital improvements plan, then this option that we're voting on tonight is really the best option for us, so I will be supporting it.
Any further questions, comments? If none, Jackie, please call the roll.
Vice President Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Todd,
Yes.
Commissioner Egan,
No.
Commissioner Heidi,
Yes.
Commissioner Danner,
Yes.
Commissioner Ori,
Aye.
President Riley.
Yes. Next, we have Ordinance 761, the installment purchase agreement and general obligation debt certificates.
President Riley, I move to approve ordinance number 761, authorizing and providing for an installment purchase agreement for the purpose of paying the cost of purchasing real or personal property, or both, in and for the Naperville Park District, DuPage and Will Counties, Illinois, and authorizing and providing for the issue of $3,500,000 in general obligation debt certificates, limited tax, of said Park District, evidencing the rights to payment under such agreement, prescribing the details of the agreement and certificates, and providing for the security for and means of payment under the agreement of the certificates.
Second.
There is a second to that long motion.
There's only 7 commas in that sentence.
Any discussion or any questions, comments on the motion? Hearing none, Jackie, please call the roll.
Vice President Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Todd,
Yes.
Commissioner Egan,
No.
Commissioner Heidi,
Yes.
Commissioner Danner,
Yes.
Commissioner Ori,
Aye.
President Riley.
Yes. No, was Vice President.
I said President.
Next, we have no items under new business. Future meetings, next special meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners, September 22nd, 2011 at 7 p.m. Is that correct, at 7 p.m.?
I'm sorry. Is it a special meeting? It's
Yeah, that would be 6 p.m. at the Administration Building. The next regular meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners is October 13th at 7 p.m. And then the next special meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners, October 27th at 6 p.m.
President Riley, I move to adjourn to executive session to discuss land acquisition, Section 2C5 of the Open Meetings Act.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Jackie, call the roll, please.
Vice President Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Todd,
Yes.
Commissioner Egan,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidi,
Yes.
Commissioner Danner,
Yes.
President Riley. Commissioner
Yes.
Ori.
Aye.
Yes.
This is like an agility.